I usually do them at the point in the unit where the kids have done a bunch of sense-making activities, labs, discussions, models, and that we've kind of figured something out together. But it's mostly been individual or a small group, and it's time to bring everybody together and say, have we all gotten to this point, this end point that I'm hoping they're at? And I want to make sure that everybody's in that space. Are different from initial ideas or building understanding discussion, and in that you're trying to reach an endpoint. This is not a brainstorming session. It is not what does the evidence from this one lab mean? This is okay, we've got 5 or 6 things that we've done. We are trying to get to an endpoint here. And it may be that not everybody is quite there when you're done, but most of your class should be. I think my role in a consensus discussion can be thought of in 2 ways. There's the ideal, and then there's probably what happens more often and is the reality. And in the ideal, yes, maybe I'm the one drawing or writing or collecting ideas, but the discussion that's happening is bouncing across the circle around me. It's not actually directed to me. The reality is that's really hard for middle schoolers, and they develop that skill over time. So in the beginning of my school year, I would say most of it is a question from me that goes to kids that a couple of them answer, and it comes back to me. And then to decide whether to include it, I then pass it back out to the group, and then try to get a few more voices to be like, yes, that's what we mean. That's what they were thinking. Yes, let's include that. But so there's the ideal, which would be the kids discussing and me sort of on the side recording or just confirming what they want. But the reality is it's often in the beginning more directed to and from me. And later in the year, they're more willing to chat with each other, because it takes a lot of time for kids to feel safe enough to voice something directly to a peer, even if it's their best friend, and especially if it's academic. So
what gets him going is he starts with one idea himself, and then he asks, did you include this in your diagram? And then sooner or later you find everyone's hand up, and then you see everyone's hand up, and then he just tries picking on a lot of people.
And I have one expectation that I always have for consensus discussions, and they all know it, which is every single person has to be heard from. And we talk about the fact that you don't have to use your voice to be heard from. It can be like one of the old I agree or a thumbs up when someone shares something that you are also agreeing with. It doesn't mean we're not going to ask you about your agreement, but it's a way of participating or being involved that shows that you are a part of and understanding what we're trying to get to consensus about. So that is actually an expectation for every consensus discussion, is I have to hear from everybody.
And one thing I love about Mr. Newland is he gets everybody's voice in. Everyone. It would be even 5 hands raised. He would get every single hand up to share more ideas.